Hey guys, hello and welcome to this new video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how we can use a Flexcard inside this Omniscript and how we can pass the data from this Omniscript so that the data in the Flexcard will show dynamically and it will have its own value coming from the Omniscript. So for that, let me just create a new Flexcard. I'll name it as pass data from Omniscript, name it as data from Omniscript. Okay, and let me just save it. Now we have this step here available. Let me just do one thing. Let me drag one more step on the UI, and what we are going to do, we will create some of the fields on the step 1, and then we will try to pass those all the fields from the step 1 to the step 2 using the Flexcard. So let me just drag and drop some of the text fields. So I'll drag a text field, I'll clone it with 3 different name. Let me just name it as first name, for the second it will be middle name, and for the last it will be last name. Okay, so now we have these 3 fields available for us and we want to pass these 3 fields to the Flexcard which we are going to create. So for that we need the data. Okay, because we need to pass this particular data to the uh, Flexcard which we are creating, right? So we are going to need the data. So for that, let me just preview this particular Omniscript so that we can check the particular data which we are going to need for our Flexcard. Let me use the first name as something and the last name as something. Okay, now you will see that we have our data available here. So what we can do, we can just copy this. We can go to a JSON formatter. We have this available. We can just we have already copied it from there, and now we can directly paste it here. And on the right hand side, I want it in the code format. So now we have this step 1, and inside that we have this particular data. So what we can do, we can go back to that particular Omniscript and we have to create a Flexcard. So let me go to the Flexcard and let us create. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to use it as data from Omniscript. Okay, and for the data source, because we are going to use the format, so let us use the custom JSON. We can put the next and then we can copy this particular data which is inside the step. So one thing you need to keep in your mind is it will be able to handle only one object. So suppose if you have another object inside this, then in that case you will have to use the transform and keep everything in one object. Like there should be only one object or it should be a list of object. It can be either. Okay, so for that let me just paste it here and then we can use the next. We can click on the fetch because the data is not in the table, so it will come in the JSON. Now we have all those 3 nodes available here. Let me just click on save so that it will create the our Flexcard, and then we can move to the configuration of the Flexcard. Let it create the LWC first and then we can move with our development. Okay, so LWC is created. Now because we have already set up our data source, so we'll have everything available in the fields. We can just drag it from here to there. We can drag the last name and we can drag the middle name in between. Okay, and if you want to change the size of this, definitely you can do that. Let me do that as well, because I want to keep everything in a single line. Okay, now we have everything in a single line. So in order to make this available and having a good support for the Omniscript, we'll have to check this Omniscript support, and then we have to if we are passing a list of data from there, then in that case we'll have to change the repeat option. So by default it will be checked, so let us uncheck that, and then we can activate it. So our flex card is now ready. So if you have not watched my previous video where I have explained like how we can use the flex card inside the Omniscript, you can definitely go and watch that video as well. Even I'll add a link here. So now we have this available here. Let us go back to the design. Inside our step 2, I'm going to use a custom lightning web component. So I'll drag a custom lightning web component here, and we'll have to configure this. So because I have already activated that, once you will click on this, you will see this particular flex card available, data for Omniscript. We can select this, and because that is accepting some data, so let us, because it should be activated and then only we can preview it, right? So because we are passing the data from here, like these first name, last name and middle name has to go from this particular Omniscript. So in order to do that, first of all, we'll have to enable a property, that is parent hyphen data, and then in the property source we can pass true, and it should be a first property. Okay, you cannot put it as the second property. I cannot use something else in the first and then I can use parent data in the second property. It has to go the first property. Okay, and then in the second property we'll have to pass the data which we are having here. So for that we'll have to use the property name. This should be static, this should not be changed. The property name will be records. Okay, the property name will be always records, and inside the property source we'll have to pass the exact data which we need to pass. Okay, which is having only this particular data. So in order to pass this particular data from here to here, we'll have to pass step 1, right? So in order to do that, we can just simply select the step 1. Once we will select the step 1, it will always pass the data which is inside the step 1, that is this particular object. Now we have already configured everything here in this custom lightning web component. We can simply activate it and then we can try our preview. We have our activated Omniscript and we can try to preview it. So we'll have to provide the input. Let us provide whatever input we have. Okay, so you can see inside the step 1 we have all the fields populated. Now once we will click on the next, it will show us a flex card. Once I'll click on the next, you can see it is showing us the flex card, but the data is not there, right? The first name is showing as output, middle name is showing as output, last name is showing as output only. That means something is not working in our flex card and or inside our Omniscript. So let us check that as well. So the issue was because whatever we will pass here inside this records, it will go as the list. Okay, so because we are passing only one object inside a list, and if you will go to the flex card, if you will try to preview it here, you will see the data inside the data JSON. So let me just show you that as well. So inside this data JSON, let it load. You can see that here as well we are seeing only the output as the first name, middle name and last name, but because inside this custom JSON we have the data available. So inside this data source you can see we have this records attribute. Once you will expand it, you can see it is coming as the array, irrespective of we have added that as the only one object, but it is taking that as a list. Okay, and inside that we have the first index as 0, and then inside that we have all the details available as first name, last name and middle name. So in order to use it, what we have to do, whatever we have unchecked for the repeat records, we have to check that first and then we can activate it. Now after activating, we can go back to our Omniscript and we can try to preview this now. So we'll have to input everything here. We have added all the inputs. Now once we will click on the next, you will see that we are able to see our flex card inside this Omniscript, and it is having all the updated data which we have added from our first step. So that's it for this video. I hope that you like this video. If you find this video helpful, please like this video and do subscribe to my channel.